Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Okay, I guess that I can't say the start of the internal revolution was Saturday night, 6/6/2020. The reason is the only person I have of any credibility saying that is Benjamin Fulford. The other two people that I thought would say it or were saying it and either turned up to be not credible or they weren't actually saying it. So now we're back to the question. Do we think that the internal revolution started Saturday night, 6/6/2020? I think it has. I remember specifically feeling the anointing touch me when I was talking about that. I also have watched our nation continue to fall apart, but it is not my desire to see our nation fall apart. So I'm going to go ahead and I guess stop saying that it started 6/6/2020. You're probably saying, oh, no, I think you need to. I understand. But at the same time, I've got to be credible here. But we find two other people, and all of a sudden we can say it again. By the way, one of our brothers has filed a Freedom of Information Act, and apparently he has done this several times, and he feels like he can get to the bottom of it, whether there was or whether was not an attack on the White House in the evening of 6/6/2020. I got an email. This is going to be the topic of our discussion today. He says, I wanted to get your thoughts on what you've been talking about recently. I understand that you think Dimitri is golden, but what if God has changed his mind, decided to give America more time? Essentially, that's what he's saying. Okay, so let's talk about that. If this is not the internal revolution and everything calms down, he says, personally, I would be happy. I do not want to see America attacked. I would love to think that we could get into the millennium as a nation and be able to walk up to God and say, hey, what happened to the Russians attacking America? And I would like for God to say, I decided not to do it. America repented enough. And that is what I work for and you work and pray for. So we'd like to see that. However, if America is never attacked and we make it into the millennium as a nation, I'm going to be happy. But I think that is almost an impossibility. Why? Because the fall of America is in 6 chapters of the Bible. Revelation 18, Jeremiah 50 and 51, Isaiah 13, 21 and 47. That's 6 different chapters. So what are the chances that America is going to make it into the millennium and not have the Russians attack her and defeat her? I would say at this point that's very unlikely. However, I believe it's Deuteronomy 32 says, I kill, I make alive. I wound, I heal, and neither can any deliver out of my hand. Revelation says he has the keys of hell and death. In other words, he decides who dies, who lives. He decides who goes to heaven, who goes to hell. It's his decision. Jesus is the righteous judge. I believe it's John 5:11 or something like that says that the Father judges no man, but has left all judgment unto the Son. So it's totally Jesus' decision. You and I, we don't play a part. Then there's the other thing. Jeremiah 51 verse 9 says, we would have healed Babylon, speaking of America, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go every one into his own country. For her judgment reacheth unto heaven and is lifted up even to the skies. What's that saying? It's saying that we are trying our best to try to heal America, but the end conclusion is she is not healed. Now, I assume that means that the 176,436 sealed indictments either don't get served, or maybe they're part of the problem, or maybe it's just not enough. I don't know. But for whatever Jesus is looking for, apparently America is not doing enough of it, and apparently we are going to fall. Now, I like positive messages, just like this past Sunday. Several people came up and said, boy, I really liked the message Sunday. Because I don't have a whole lot of good messages. I mean, how can you tell people that the sky is bright and sunny when there's a big storm up there and it's lightning and storming and raining? How can you tell people that everything is going to be okay when it's not? So let me take you to April 1997. Dimitri Duduman. It's called The Bear Awakes. He said, I knelt beside my bed to pray as I do every night before I go to sleep, and after finishing my prayer, I opened my eyes, but I was no longer in my room. Instead, I found myself in a forest. I looked around to my right. I saw a man dressed in white who pointed his finger and said, see and remember. It took me a while to find out what he was pointing out. Finally, I saw a small bear who seemed to be half dead lying on the ground. As I continued to watch the bear, it began to breathe deeper. With every passing minute, it seemed to revive itself, and as I watched, it became angrier. It then began to grow. Soon, it was larger than the forest floor. It grew larger, and it continued to become angrier. Then, it began to paw the ground so that the paw would hit the ground and the earth would shudder. The bear continued to devastate all that stood in his path until it came upon some men with sticks trying to fend it off. Now, I think that that's probably China, Russia, NATO powers. All of those powers coming against the mighty Russian military machine will be like sticks trying to fight off a bear. In other words, they don't do so good. Now, in the end, they win, but in the beginning, apparently, they don't do so good against the Russian bear and its military machine. Anyway, let's go on. By this time, the bear had grown so large it simply crushed the men underfoot and continued to rampage. I was stunned by what I saw and asked the man standing beside me, "What does all this mean?" At first, they thought the bear was dead, the man said. As it began to stir once again, they will consider it harmless. Suddenly, it will grow strong once more with purpose and violence. God will blind the eyes of those that continue to trample on the sacrifice of Christ's blood, until the day the bear will strike swiftly. Now, let's back up. Let's talk about that a minute. What does it mean when it says, God will blind the eyes of those that continue to trample on the sacrifice of Christ's blood? Well, for you to trample on the sacrifice of Christ's blood, first, you would have to have Christ's blood. So that means that this is talking to a nation with Christians. And then it would have to be, well, we have to ask ourselves, well, what does it mean, trample on the sacrifice of Christ's blood? It would have to mean that you had accepted Christ, but you weren't walking in the teachings of Christ. So you'd accepted Christ, but you were living like the world, living like the devil. Know anybody like that today? I live with a lot of people around me like that. God will blind the eyes of those that continue to trample on the sacrifice of Christ's blood. All right, let's assume that's talking about America because you and I both know it is. So what's it saying? I believe it's saying that right now, if America turns to God, God will open our eyes and let it see that the Russians are a problem and that they are coming. Have we seen that coming? No, we have not. So that tells me that America is not repenting, not turning around. We're not walking even close to the direction we need to be walking for this thing to be avoided, for us to be into heaven without the Russians attacking. Now, let's go back. God will blind the eyes of those that continue to trample on the sacrifice of Christ's blood until the day that the bear will strike swiftly. This day will catch them unprepared. That's where we are now. This day will catch them unprepared, and it will be just as you saw. The man then said, "Tell my people the days are numbered, and the sentence has been passed." Sentence has been passed. What does that mean? The days are numbered, and the sentence has been passed. When the gavel comes down in a courtroom, that means case concluded. Whether it's dismissed, whether it's judgment passed, it is end of discussion. So when it says the sentence has been passed, it means that in America, you will fall. The Russians will attack. All of the things that have been spoken about you will come to pass. Tell my people the days are numbered and the sentence has been passed. If they will seek my face and walk in righteousness before me, I will open their eyes that they may see the danger approach. If they only look toward the approaching danger, they too will be caught up and trampled underfoot. Only in righteousness will they find safety. All right, let's back up and look at that. If they only look to the approaching danger, they will be caught up and trampled underfoot. What does that mean? If they only look toward the approaching danger, they too will be caught up and trampled underfoot. Well, that probably means that this is the group of people that is saying, oh, the Russians are really bad, but they're not making any changes. Does that make sense? If they only look toward the approaching danger, they too will be caught up and trampled underfoot. He's saying that whether you look toward the Russians, whether you try to warn people, it's still going to come. And it's also saying you aren't going to escape any of the trouble unless you are righteous. Okay, well, let's talk about that. So what's righteous? I make suggestions to people on what I think they ought to do to be righteous, but most people are not willing to do what I'm about to say. And so what I say goes in one ear and out the other. They don't want to do it. I understand. I mean, I don't want to do some of what I'm about to tell you to do either. But at the same time, I want to be closer to my God, and so I do it. So here you go. I suggest that you read your Bible. I think you need to really, really know it well. If you don't know it well, then you need to read it a lot more every day. If you know it really well, then you probably can get by with reading it less every day. But here are the two words, every day. Oh, that's too much trouble. Yeah, I know. It's because we're in the world too much. We like playing with our cell phones and watching movies and doing all the other worldly things rather than getting close to God. So that's the first thing I'm going to say. If you want to be more righteous, you want to be closer to God, that's the first thing I'm going to say. Read your Bible, your King James Bible. And if you got one of the other perversions, light it on fire. Don't give it away. Somebody might read it. That's right. I'm assuming you asked me what do I need to do to get ready. So I'm telling you. Read your King James Bible. Next thing I'm going to say, stop sinning. That means with your eyes. That means with our heart. That means with our mouth. That means we don't say things that is displeasing to our God. Well, I don't know what's displeasing. Okay, I've got a solution. You're not like this one either. Here's what you do. You say, Lord, what do I need to do to be cleaner and closer to you? Now, if there's a prayer that will ever be answered, it will be that one. So you say, Lord, show me what I need to do to correct my life, to clean up my life. Show me what I'm doing wrong in Jesus' name. You pray that prayer and then get ready for, I think I might be accurate in saying this, all hell to break loose. I remember when I prayed it was 2 weeks, man. It was like I was on my face repenting for everything. All of a sudden, all of these things were brought back to my mind, going back for, 20 years. Man, am I ever going to get past this? Okay, the third thing I suggest you do is build a prayer closet. I'm not talking about hammer and wooden nails. I'm talking about time on your knees worshiping God. What I suggest you do is get the DVD, Building Your Prayer Closet, Protection in a Time of Trouble. Out of the 37 DVDs that I made over the 27 some odd years Prophecy Club is going, it is still probably to this day the most popular DVD because it shocks people. It shows them another world living with the Lord that they've never thought of, never heard of, and they've never heard anybody speak of before. I continue to get people walking up to me, man, I watched your Prayer Closet DVD, and that's the best DVD. You doing it? Well, see what I'm saying? Okay, so we let the world get in our way. Building a prayer closet, and that's a time where we go in and we worship God. And if you get that DVD, you watch that DVD, and you probably have to watch it several times. You get that one, and it will help you to build a prayer closet relationship with the Lord. If you have a prayer closet, then you do not have to fear about the things that are coming. If you have fear in your heart, I've said this for years, if you have fear in your heart, it just says that you're too close to the world and you're not close enough to God. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. 1997. It's called A Great Bear. 2 days before taking my father to the hospital, I heard his voice in the early morning hours. This is by Virginia Boldea, the daughter of Dimitri Duduman, and it's talking about Dimitri Duduman. I saw something, Dimitri said. As usual, I got my recorder and went to his bedside. He would not let me record it. I don't remember everything he said, but I would like to share with you what I do remember. My father stated the Lord showed me a very large bear. It was as big as a building, and it began to do battle with an unarmed man. You want to guess? Let me read that again. It was as big as a building, and it began to do battle with an unarmed man. You want to guess who that's talking about? That's right. That's Russia. That's what it's going to be like when Russia attacks America. All of these other nations are going to be like unarmed men compared to Russia. Russia has got a military machine that dwarfs the rest of the world. Do you see what I've shown you? A voice said. This is how it will be when the hardships come over America. No one will be able to defend against her. Only those that trust in me will be spared. Everything will start as a heavy rain on a sunny day, at a time you least expect it. There was more, but I do not remember the rest. So, do you think that the internal revolution really did start 6/6/2020? I think it did, but again, I got to have some proof. We'll see if our listeners out there can dig up proof. Let's see. Let's go on to the next article. Headline: John Kerry warns of revolution in November if Trump wins while he lays the foundation for it. June 22, 2020. Former Secretary of State John Kerry is using some dangerous rhetoric about the 2020 election. In a recent panel discussion for the Alliance of Democracies, he made the following statement. If people don't have adequate access to the ballot, I mean that's the stuff on which revolutions are built, if you begin to deny people the capacity of your democracy to work, even the Founding Fathers wrote in the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, that we have an inherent right to challenge that. And I'm worried that increasingly people are disaffected. He does not limit his accusation to the upcoming election. Instead, Kerry says this is why he and Al Gore lost their elections. Not. But anyway, we'll go on. He says to understand why this rhetoric is so dangerous, you have to follow some history related to the Maidan, M-A-I-D-A-N revolution. Never heard of that, but Maidan revolution in Ukraine and the activities of our own State Department have a program called Civil Society 2. During the impeachment, I did a fair amount of research into Ukraine. I arrived at the same conclusions that Oliver Stone and Glenn Beck did. Pretty odd group to come to a consensus. The U.S. State Department and their associated NGOs have given significant money to George Soros-funded organizations in Ukraine. Okay, well, I have to say, what in the world is America doing giving a dime to George Soros? But unfortunately, there's more bad coming. The U.S. State Department developed a program called Tech Camps. Now listen to this, Tech Camps, to teach people in other nations how to use technology, tools, and media to form protest movements. To form protest movements? They're teaching people how to start revolutions. These movements and media outlets also receive funding from U.S. agencies and Soros-related NGOs. What are we doing sending money to the same place George Soros sends it to? Our diplomats and members of Congress took active measures to support the Maidan protesters in Ukraine and depose the government of Viktor Yanukovych, if I'm saying that right. Members of the diplomatic corps took a leading role in determining who would be in the government of Ukraine following the Maidan Revolution and took a heavy-handed approach to the information of new institutions. It goes on to say this is how you cause revolution. Now, John Kerry, former Secretary of State, is saying that he believes a revolution is going to be in America this coming year at the revolution. Well, I would say at the November 3rd. And I was talking with Butch Paw, another pastor friend of mine. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be on his radio program in another 3 hours or so. He said, I believe that we're going to see an internal revolution around November, no matter who wins. And I said, amen. I said, I agree. He said, if the Dems win, he said, then the Trumpers are going to be furious and we're going to have an internal revolution. I said, I agree. He said, if the Trumpers win, he said, then we're going to have the Dems and they're going to be mad and we're going to have an internal revolution. Either way, we're going to have an internal revolution. And, of course, that's what I'm talking on tonight. It's on his radio program. I'm telling about Dimitri and how I met with him. I had him in case you guys hadn't heard that, I had him in my home on 2 different occasions. I went to his home and we put him on a speaking tour. As a matter of fact, later he said the DVD that Prophecy Club made of him was the very best recording of any that had ever been made. And which, by the way, it's available free at prophecyclub.com. You can just go up there and you watch Dimitri giving his testimony. And I think that's important to go up and watch him do that, which, by the way, I have to tell you a funny thing. So, I don't know, probably a year and a half ago, a couple of ladies came in to visit the Spirit of Prophecy Church on Sunday morning, which, by the way, if you want to come in and visit, I recommend you come in at 10:30, actually probably about 10:15, have coffee and donuts and stuff. Anyway, so these two ladies came about a year and a half ago, and in the sermon, I mentioned Dimitri's name, as I do from time to time. And I came up afterwards and was shaking their hand, inviting them, trying to get them to come back to church, what pastors do. And she says, I heard you mention Dimitri Dudeman's name. And I said, yes. And they said, we were pleased to hear that you know about him. And I said, yes, I do. And they said, well, we saw him on the internet. He was giving his testimony on the internet. And I said, oh, yeah, well, did it have a sign in the background that said the Prophecy Club? Yes, I do. Yes, I think it did. Yes. I said, well, that guy that was introducing him, that was me. No, that wasn't you. I said, well, if it had Prophecy Club in the back of it, that was me introducing. You see right over there? That's the sign that was in the back of him speaking right there. That's the sign. No, I will go look. I will look it up. So the next, so the next Sunday, these two ladies came in and they said, we looked it up, but that's not you. I said, well, yes, it is. My name is Stan, and that was me introducing it. Well, what they're talking about is in those days, back in 1997, I had dark hair and a dark mustache. Today, it's, there's not any more dark left. So, but I'm happy to be 66. I don't mind. It doesn't bother me that I'm 66. Okay, so let's take a second and talk here. So the first crusade is full, but the second one still has a few spots available. The first one is July 29 to August 2. You can still get into the crusade August 2 to 6. Why do I think you should come? I think you should come because one is, I'm going to just go through some of the awesome things we do there. Everyone is going to get water baptized. That's one of the things that we think is very, very powerful. Now, I know you may be thinking, oh, that's a lot of trouble. I already been baptized or I haven't been baptized. That makes a difference. Me too. I will get baptized again. I'll explain to you why that's so powerful. But you have never been in a praise and worship service until you've been in a praise and worship service where everybody there just got water baptized. That is awesome. Next thing is, we have you come to the front. We ask you don't have to, but we ask you to. Hey, that's another thing. Everybody coming, we ask them to fast 3 days. Now, you don't have to, but we ask you to. And most everybody does. And that's another thing. Be in a room with a couple of hundred people that have all fasted 3 days and looking for the power of God to come into the room. That's also very, very powerful. It's unusual to be in a room of people that dedicated. That's what this is. Then also, while you're there, I ask everybody to come forward and then we have you all line up and get on your knees, and me and then Leslie and all the other ministers come along and we lay hands on you. I pour oil on your forehead. Now, it's not just a linky oil. It's 4 milliliters. Okay, so how much that? If you were to get your little finger and from the second knuckle towards the end of your finger out, that's about the size of a bottle. It's just 2 knuckles, not much. It's 4 milliliters of oil. But I explained to them how I discovered that just putting a little daub of oil is not the same as actually pouring it on. Every place in the Bible where someone was anointed, you take, for example, King Saul, King David, all of them, when they were poured, the oil was poured on their head. So I pour the oil on their head, and something very special happens. They get the spirit of revelation. Same thing Leslie does. Next thing is you're going to go through about 2.5 days of Leslie's School of the Prophets. And you're going to be challenged in some ways to step up and get closer to God that you've never thought of, you've never heard of in your life. You will be amazed at what she does to help you. It is an amazing course. She's got an amazing manual, and it's only available when you go through the crusade. Then I am going to teach through, and I'm going to show you the secret door, and I'm going to help you to understand. I'm even going to say, if you have read the book, The Secret Door, I think I've found a better way to explain the secret door, because when you understand the secret door, all of a sudden, all of the prophecies are then put in place. Not just the ones in Revelation, but all of the entire prophecies are put in correct chronological order. Why? Because I think God has called you to be teaching prophecy and walk in sevenfold miracles in the days ahead. Look, I think that the trumpet's about to blow. I think that the first seal and the start of the tribulation is probably going to happen in the next few years, at least in our lifetime. And so it's important now that you get prepared. That's the sevenfold miracle crusade. You have to understand, Leslie and I have done over 60 crusades, so we really know what we're doing. This is our ministry. Go to sevenfoldmiraclecrusades.com and get signed up. sevenfoldmiraclecrusades.com. Stay at the Hyatt. Don't stay at another hotel, and get the meal package. And I understand that the rate that the Hyatt charges for the hotel each night is going up. I don't know exactly what the deadline date is, but you need to go and get signed up quickly before the rates go up. I think it's like $89, and I think it goes up to $125 a night. So, yeah, get signed up quick. sevenfoldmiraclecrusades.com. In 2017, I memorized the book of Revelation. I was shown a secret door linking the feasts to the prophecies of Revelation. For the first time, the book of Revelation can be put in correct chronological order. You can understand Bible prophecy. 1 for 20, 5 for 30, 10 for 55. What is the most important information to every beating heart on the globe? After accept Jesus, it would be, don't take the mark of the beast. Those taking the mark of the beast do not get soul death, but are tormented in the lake of fire and brimstone for eternity. How do you tell them? Give them miss the mark. 1 for 20, 10 for 30, 20 for 40. Over the past 32 years, I've collected the best 101 prophecies from Dimitri Duduman, Michael Boldea, Leslie Johnson, Henry Gruber, Shane Warren, Terry Bennett, Maria Sklar, Augusto Perez, Doug Metzger, and more. It's called God's Warnings for America. 1 for 20, 5 for 30, 10 for 55. My new book is called Tribulation Secrets in Daniel because that's what it does. It shows you the part of Daniel you need to know, being you're about to be a tribulation saint and will desperately need to know and understand about the last days you live in. 1 for 20, 10 for 30, 20 for 40 at prophecyclub.com. prophecyclub.com. Emergency food is almost sold out everywhere. However, because of our relationship with heavensharvest.com, they have made an entire truckload available to Prophecy Club in a few weeks, where others are totally out or waiting for months. They have all sorts of emergency supplies and food at heavensharvest.com. Their food comes in square stackable buckets, breakfast, entree, protein, fruits and vegetables. heavensharvest.com makes it easy to order. I recommend you have at least 12 months of food for each person in your family. Receive a free box of heirloom seeds when you enter the promo code STAN. That's heavensharvest.com, promo code STAN. heavensharvest.com, promo code STAN. When a nuclear device is detonated, the wind blows the dust settling on everything around you. Then you breathe, eat, or absorb radioactive iodine, which then kills your thyroid and kills you. A simple fix is to immediately take potassium iodate pills, which flood your thyroid with good iodine, keeping the radioactive iodine out. You need 1 bottle per person per exposure for everyone from infant to adult. 10 bottles available for a gift of $225 or $25 per bottle at prophecyclub.com. Shelf life from 5 to 8 years, potentially more if you refrigerate or freeze it. That's prophecyclub.com, potassium iodate pills. CornerstoneAssetMetals.com is owned by a prophecy student who reads his King James Bible and supports Prophecy Club. Call CornerstoneAssetMetals.com for gold, silver, palladium, rhodium bars, or coins. They can help you roll over your IRA, 401k, so tell CornerstoneAssetMetals.com Prophecy Club sent you. You can now watch 160 Prophecy Club recordings without interruption. Watch prophecyclub.com.
Your faithful monthly gifts help the Prophecy Club to continue and overcome evil with the truth. Help us take the warning to America. Engage in the battle to win lost souls to Christ by supporting this ministry today.